Thanks for checking out the Brad and John Show podcast. This segment of the show is brought to you by John Combest's book, Stalking, Harassment, Internet Trolling, A Guide to Recovering and Rebuilding After Online Attacks. It's a great reference if you've ever been the unfortunate target of a social media attack. It's available on Amazon. Just search John Combest. That's C-O-M-B-E-S-T, John Combest, and the book will show up in your search results. Now it's time for another segment of the Brad and John Show. Can you handle it?
I'm Egbert, the owner of this station. Check out my website at egbert.com. That's E-G-G-B-U-R-T, egbert.com. Now it's back to Brad and John. Check out their website at bjshow.co. The BJ Show? Come on, guys. Anyway, here's B and J.
Ancient Chinese secret.
I'm sorry, John. It's Friday. I can get away
with it. You know what? I do enjoy doing some laundry, Brad, so I might have a little Asian in me. I don't care what DNA tests say. I might have a little Asian in me.
Ancient Chinese secret.
Cross the T's and dot the lowercase j's.
Okay, so let's move on to... Now, first off, before we're going to talk about Tishaura Jones and her, some would say, unacceptable social media behavior, I will say... John brought this up last break that some of the members of the aldermen in the city of St. Louis have been defriended by Tishaura Jones because they didn't vote that proper way. I will just say, what's the old mafia line? Keep your friends
close and your enemies closer.
Right. So why would you get rid of your enemies? You want to make sure because you want to see what they're up to, right?
You know, so that's one way to look at it, Brad. But here's the way, and so here's my analogy. And I think this is something that everybody can relate to. So follow me here for a second, Brad. Tishaura Jones is, let's put politics aside and let's put policy aside. So Tishaura Jones is an attractive woman, right? I think anybody would say that she has quite a personality. I think people would consider her to be an attractive woman. If we know, Brad, you think of attractive women you've known throughout your whole life. Every attractive woman has what you would consider beta orbiters, right? Think back to college. They're the guys that buy a pretty girl drinks at a bar, and then are like, hey, after this bar closes, we're all going to go to my friend Tom's. Like, why don't you and your friends come? And the girl's like, oh, yeah, thanks for the drinks. Hold on, I got to go grab my friend. I will be right back. And then she's gone, right? So beta orbiters are guys who just – they live to orbit around someone who they consider higher status than them. Now, Brad, Mark Maxwell didn't say which of the alderwomen or aldermen had been unfriended. But here's my theory, Brad, and here's why I think it was a good idea for Tishaura to do this. Tishaura Jones has a bunch of beta orbiters. And by beta orbiters, I just mean there are people that pedestalize Tishaura Jones, that recognize her power, her influence, her grace, her beauty, and they want to be associated with her. So when they do something like override her veto, which is a real slap in the face policy-wise, you know what she can do? She unfriends them, Brad, and they are going to do whatever they can do. They're humans, Brad, and they want her approval. They're going to do whatever they can in the next few months to try to regain her favor. Now, if it was you, Brad, and Tishaura unfriended you, you'd be like, well, to heck with her. Screw her. I'm gonna support whoever runs against her for mayor next year. But most people, Brad, if you are a white woman and you really want Tishaura to think you're cool, Tishaura, I love Lizzo, aren't I? I'm a cool white girl, right? I'm not like all the other white women in Tower Grove. I'm different. You want Tishaura to like you. You want her to approve of you, Brad. By the way, this is a topic that I covered in my book, Stalking, Harassment, Internet Trolling. Our incessant need for approval, Brad. And I think that's what a lot of these older women and maybe older men have. So for what I'm getting at, Brad, the bottom line is Tishaura was right to block them. Or not block them, but to unfriend them. Because now for the next few months, Brad, they're going to do whatever they can to get back in her good graces. They're that desperate to get approval from a high-status, attractive black woman.
Are you done? Is that it?
I'm done. That's it.
Okay. Let me make a couple comments here. Okay. That is John Combest. Okay. 3 things that you will never hear on Tracy's station is...
Number 7, Brad. Go ahead.
Pedestalize? What is that word again?
Pedestalize. Yeah.
Pedestalize.
Putting someone up on a pedestal.
Okay. Pedestalize. One more time.
Pedestalize.
I can't say that. Beta orbit and monkey hangers. You will
Monkey branching.
Monkey branching. Okay.
Yeah.
You will never hear those terms on Tracy's station. I'm sorry.
That's true, Brad.
Okay. Let's move on to something else. You and I talked about this briefly before we went on the air. The guy. Oh, by the way, I looked this up. I couldn't remember. Thomas Rhett. I sent you the song that ate my truck. Okay. His name is Thomas Rhett Akins Sr. His son is Thomas Rhett Akins Jr. So the dad went by his middle and last name, Rhett Akins, and his son goes professionally by his first and middle name. So they have two, Thomas Rhett Akins, Sr. and Jr. The senior uses Rhett Akins, his middle and last name, as his professional name, and his son uses his first and middle name. So I just wanted to clear that up because I know the country music fans are out there. And at one point in time, I think him and his dad performed together, which is sort of interesting because Thomas Rhett has done very, very, very well for himself. Rhett Akins had a couple of hits. His biggest one was That Ain't My Truck, which, like I said, is my favorite song. Okay. The gift that just keeps on giving is our president with the cannibals ate his uncle. I mean, I'm sorry.
But Brad, remember, like we talked about before we went on the air, the White House says that he believed that it was true.
Well, but
when he said it, he believed it was true, Brad.
But okay, if here's a perfect example. If Donald Trump said something like that, people go, that just goes to show you how that guy's just sort of whacked out of his head.
Yeah, he has a negative relationship with the truth.
Right. He but yet, but what was the official line they said? They said, what was it again?
I thought KGP, what's her name? KJP said that when he said it, he thought it was true. He was just mistaken.
Well, but isn't that life? If I said that Sophia Loren called me up like when I was in high school and wanted me to come to Italy to have a date with her, and if I said, well, I thought that's what happened.
In your dream, you thought it was true, and then you woke up, right?
Right. I mean, can't you say that about everything in life?
Yeah,
well,
you can.
I thought I was driving.
I'll look up her quote about this.
I thought I was driving a brand new Ferrari, but it turned out it was an old Toyota Camry, you know? I mean, and the bizarre part of it is that I think the Air Force officially came out and said, well, the plane didn't crash into the jungle, you know, and the New Guinea cannibals didn't eat him, that the plane, and the other thing about it was he said it was one of those single-engine planes, and it turns out it wasn't a single-engine plane, it was a two-engine plane, and there were 4 people on board, and one guy survived that they ditched in the ocean, and they weren't shot down, the engines failed or something. I was like, okay, can we get the facts right here?
Yeah, and so I just pulled up the comments that she made on the plane, and she just repeated that he was very proud. It was a very proud moment for him to talk about his uncle. And I guess a reporter had asked, said, can we see the cannibal tab in your briefing book?
Oh, no. Seriously, really?
Yeah, somebody asked that. And she said, there is no cannibal tab. What are you talking about? Is that what you're asking me about?
Seriously?
And then, yeah, she said that. Yeah, these are, and by the way, this is on whitehouse.gov. This is on the official White House website.
Okay.
Of her talking about the embellishment of the story.
If you know what we're talking about, this is sort of inside baseball stuff. If you've ever seen her in action, she has a 3-ring binder that she puts on her podium in front of her, the lectern, whatever you want to call it, and like whereas Jen Circleback Psaki could just, you know, spit things off the top of her head, you know, KJP has to pull a tab. She grabs a tab. If you remember this from, do kids do that anymore? Do your kids have like 3-ring binders with tabs and stuff like that?
No, absolutely
They don't
not.
do that kind of stuff anymore. But back in the day, you had a 3-ring binder,
did, yeah.
and you had a tab for math and a tab for English, and you know, and it stuck out from the rest of the papers, and it was like sort of a heavy piece of paper, like cardboard, and and that's the line. Okay, unbelievable. Okay, last night. I won't say who did it, but someone texted me and said, Israel has just attacked Iran. And I grabbed my phone and I start looking at Fox and CNN and MSNBC and all the other, reputable. Did I put reputable with MSNBC and CNN?
You did. You did, Brad.
Shame on me. and there was nothing on any of the sites. But I will give credit about this. When I listened to
We are National Public Radio, NPR, where the news is what we say is the news.
They were on top of it, and they were already talking about some of the missiles were transgender missiles, and some of the missiles were straight missiles, and it was sort of interesting. And some of the missiles were of DEI. Some of the missiles were painted white. Some of the missiles were painted black, and some were painted brown.
Yeah, that makes sense, Brad. BIPOC missiles. And you know what, though? Now, some of the BIPOC missiles that didn't perform that well, that was because of institutional air racism. Like the air is humid at certain levels, which will affect a more brown missile than a white one, you know?
Okay. I heard something the other night that didn't make sense to me until I'm driving down the highway, and I can't remember what station I was listening to. And they were talking about the pushback of the Latino, and
Latinx? You mean Latinx?
Well, there's a new one. It's called it's called Latinar or something like that.
Yeah, I have seen this, and I didn't care enough to click on it. But there's some kind of new thing that they're trying to make a thing, you know?
Well, the interesting thing was essentially the Latina people coined the term Latinx, and it's interesting because this particular person referred to it as Latinx, which is interesting, because you go like, okay, it could be Latinx, Latinx, and there was pushback from the Latin community. Now, and this was interesting, this person, I can't remember who I was listening to. I was tired last night, was driving along, and this person explained the whole thing, that the reason that the NPR crowd wanted to rename Latino and Latina in Latinx or Latinx. Do you know the reason for this?
No, because I just assumed that it was gender neutral, but
that's the point. It was non-binary. It's because you don't want to. You want to just be. It's like a BIPOC, Brad. You want to be able to be all inclusive. Okay. Am I the dumbest guy in the world to not realize that? Because what they're saying is, and I hate to admit this, but I was in junior high, I took French and hated it. There are a lot of languages where it's part of the language that you refer to things as either masculine or feminine.
That's right. So amigo or amiga. You're
right. And essentially the Latina had to do with male, female. If you're a woman, it's one. If you're a man of Latin extraction, you're one. And if you're a woman, you're the other. Whereas Latinx essentially is neutral and essentially...
Yeah, it's all-inclusive, Brad. I mean, the point of language, some people would say, would be to be as inclusive as possible. And you want to remove any sort of... And what about people that are non-binary, Brad? What about people that don't identify as male or female? And what if you're having a conversation, Brad, with a noun, and like you're talking to a pencil, and a pencil is lapis in Spanish. That pencil doesn't want you to judge it for being male or female, Brad. What if that pencil's non-binary?
See, John, we've toyed with this idea. And I need to put that page up on. By the way, we have a new page. I don't know if you noticed.
No, I didn't see it. Is it on Egbert?
Yeah, it's on
BJ Show.
BJShow.co. It's actually just a video page, and it just shows all our little videos up there. I think there's 3 things up there right now. There's the comfy shoes, and there's the Bill Eigel video, and then there's
I see it. Yeah,
the Jay Ashcroft.
Awesome.
Okay, we need to put the glossary up there, and we need to start making up our own terms. Okay, we need to have and we'll define them there in our glossary, and you and I will say them, and then what we're going to do is we're going to say, send them to Jason Rosenbaum. By the way, it is a Jason Rosenbaum Friday, by the way.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, he's talking about sports betting, remember?
Right. We're going to send the stuff over to NPR and see if they'll use our different glossary of terms.
They'll love it. Yeah, they'll be all for it, I'm sure.
There's more fallout from, what do you think that guy's going to do? The Uri Berliner or Uri, whatever his name is. What do you think he's going to do now?
I think he's going to be a darling of the right, and he's going to be canonized, and he's going to be uplifted by the right. So first of all, he'll never have to work again because the right will embrace him. And the people on the right will say, look, even an NPR guy points out. But you know what? You know, one of the things that you and I haven't talked about, Brad, is like, what is the real fallout of this? And I don't think at all NPR is going to change. Like, they have to make some symbolic changes. Like, they have to add another, like, you know, advisory board to address concerns or whatever. But my opinion on it, Brad, is just let them be liberal. And you and I might disagree on this, but I say just let them be liberal. For everything that their national group does, every time national NPR or St. Louis Public Radio does a story about people with the capacity to give birth instead of saying women, or people who have periods instead of women, let them do the freak stuff, let them do the far left stuff, and then people like you and I can point it out and say, what do you mean? Why can't you say women? Well, because not everyone who menstruates is female. Okay. You know, my point is, like, just let them do their left-wing thing and continue putting themselves further out on the island.
Okay. Can you imagine, and this would be a horrible thing to do, but you've got young kids. My kids are all grown. Can you imagine, like, let's say a husband and wife, they get married and they have kids, and before they have kids, they sign a pledge that they're going to do everything in their power to essentially deprogram their kids so that as they grow up, they will not be programmed the way kids are normally programmed. And for example, if you would see a stop sign, you would say, that's when you see a stop sign, you go. And when you see a traffic light, you stop on green and you go on red.
Yeah.
And as you brought the kids up, and because as you bring up kids, that's what you do. You say things like, okay, see that thing right there? It's a traffic light. And when the light turns red, we have to stop. And if it's green, it's going to warn us that the light's going to turn red by putting up a yellow light for a short period of time.
Yep.
So in other words, you go through all the things and you explain to kids, like, this is how you start the car. I have this key. It goes in the ignition. Or they watch. You know, so what you do instead, you do things like, for example, in your car, you go to the mechanic shop and you have the car rewired so that when you turn on the windshield wipers, it doesn't run the windshield wipers anymore. It starts the car. So as the kid grows up, he's going to go like, oh my God, I want to, you know, and then when the kid, when he hits like 16 and his buddies at school going like, dude, green means go, not stop. And the kid goes like, what?
And you're doing them. I think what you're getting at, Brad, is you're doing them a huge disservice and you're teaching them an alternate reality that doesn't exist.
Thank you, John.
Can you believe teaching a young boy that he could have a period? Like maybe if he tries hard enough, by the time he turns 14, he'll I don't know, develop ovaries.
John, next break, I'm going to tell you a classic story that I should not tell, but it is a family story that I don't think I've ever told this story outside of my family. But and it involves one of my sons. I won't say which one because I have 3 of them. So if you know any of my sons, you won't indict one of them. But it's a classic story that you will get a kick out of. Okay?
I love it. I can't wait, Brad.
And it's not meant hurtful. It's just meant like the point I just tried to make is you are bringing up kids. It's like someone told me, who was the one that told me the story the other day that they have friends that their parents were like, not, like if they wouldn't let them eat any sweets, and if they had a birthday party, the kids who came to their party got a full slice of cake. They got like a little tiny, like
I haven't heard that
wafer thin slice of cake. And I think they had a son and a daughter, and you know, and their mom and dad, no, you can't have that. Go brush your teeth. You're going to have cavities, that kind of a thing. So
gosh.
When they went off to college, the boy and the girl both gained like 100 pounds in the first year.
And they went nuts,
right?
I'm sure.
They just started eating everything.
Yes, of course they did, because they have to overcompensate.
M&M's, chocolate, love it, milkshakes, ice cream.
Boxed wine, keg stands.
Right. That happens with alcohol with a lot of people that go to college.
That's true.
Okay. We have to take a break.
Thanks for checking out the Brad and John Show podcast. This segment of the show is brought to you by John Combest's book, Stalking, Harassment, Internet Trolling, A Guide to Recovering and Rebuilding After Online Attacks. It's a great reference if you've ever been the unfortunate target of a social media attack. It's available on Amazon. Just search John Combest. That's Combest, John Combest, and the book will show up in your search results. Now it's time for another segment of the Brad and John Show. Can you handle it?